Welcome to today's podcast. We're going to look at when you, the NT wife, were the focus and why that changed. Now, there's a moment that many people in neurodiverse marriages remember very clearly, the beginning, right? Not because it was dramatic, not because it was chaotic, but because it was focused. You were listened to, your thoughts were followed, your details were remembered, and it didn't feel superficial. It felt steady, it felt intentional, it felt like being chosen. And for many neurotypical wives especially, that focused attention felt like emotional safety. But here's the question we're going to explore today. What happens when that focus fades? And more importantly, did it fade because you changed or because something else was at play all along? So let's unpack this very carefully. We're going to look at why the early focus feels like intimacy. In the early stages of many neurodiverse relationships, the connection can feel unusually intense. Not dramatic, not volatile, but concentrated. There's often deep conversation, sustained curiosity, a kind of immersive attention, long exchanges that feel meaningful, and you may have felt deeply seen as the neurotypical spouse. For you, this kind of attention maps directly onto attachment. When someone listens closely and stays engaged, your nervous system reads that as bonding. That's important because the experience was real. It wasn't imagined, it wasn't foolish, it wasn't naive. But here's the piece most couples don't understand at the time. For many autistic nervous systems, intense early focus is often driven by novelty and cognitive interest, not sustained emotional attunement. Now, this doesn't mean there was no affection coming from your ASD spouse. It means the system organizing the attention may have been different than the one that organizes long-term emotional bonding. That distinction becomes crucial later. So now let's talk about why the focus changes. Over time, novelty fades. This happens in every relationship, by the way. But in neurodiverse marriages, the impact can be different. In neurotypical attachment systems, familiarity deepens connection. The more known someone becomes, the more securely bonded you feel. But for many autistic nervous systems, familiarity reduces stimulation. And here's the subtle shift. Early connection was often organized around curiosity. Later connection requires sustained emotional responsiveness. And emotional responsiveness, especially spontaneous intuitive attunement, can be neurologically taxing to the ASD spouse. So what you may experience as, well, he stopped caring, may actually be the nervous system shifted from novelty engagement to relational demand. That shift doesn't always feel conscious, but it sure feels real. Now let's talk about the moment the neurotypical partner internalizes it. Here's where it becomes painful. When the focus fades, most neurotypical spouses don't think, oh, this is just a neurological transition. No, they think, did I change? Did I become too much? Did I stop being funny, stop being pretty? Was I only interesting at first? Am I not enough anymore? And that's where your self-doubt enters, because his attention is still possible, but you see it redirected towards other things, a hobby, a project, a screen, a special interest, work. So the energy in your ASD spouse exists, but it's just not pinpointed at you the same way. And that contrast to the NT wife feels like rejection, and why wouldn't it? But it's critical to understand something here. Capacity for focused engagement does not automatically equal capacity for sustained emotional attunement. Those are neurologically distinct processes. One is structured and predictable. The other is relationally fluid and emotionally complex. And complexity can feel overwhelming to certain nervous systems. Now, for the ASD spouse watching this is not an accusation, it's clarification. I know that you genuinely care. I know that you genuinely love your NT spouse. That's not up for debate. But if emotional engagement feels effortful, draining, confusing, it drains your battery, your nervous system may default to environments where regulation is easier. Now, that doesn't mean your NT spouse is unimportant, of course. It means relational energy costs more than interest-based energy. And if that cost isn't understood on both sides, resentment is going to grow. You're probably living it. Not because either of you are wrong, but because neither of you understand the system. Now, here's the key reframe. The early focus was not a promise of permanence. It was a phase organized around novelty and stimulation. If you believe you lost that focus because you failed, you will spend the next 10, 20 years trying to earn it back. If you understand it as neurological, you stop attacking yourself. That doesn't fix the relationship, but it removes shame, and shame is what keeps couples stuck. So here's the key takeaway for the NT wife. If you were once the focus, that mattered. If the focus changed, that also makes sense. The work now is not recreating the early phase, it's building something sustainable that doesn't rely on novelty anymore. Now, in the next episode, we'll talk about what happens emotionally when you begin to feel replaced and why that feeling is deeper than jealousy. If this resonates, share it with your partner. And remember, understanding the system is the first step towards reducing shame. Please like, subscribe, and comment. What has been your experience on this topic? I read and respond to all comments. I'll see you in the next podcast. Would you like to schedule a paid private coaching session? This will be in the form of a face-to-face Zoom call. Underneath any of my videos, you'll see this Calendly link. If you click on that link, it'll open up my calendar. You can pick the available days and times that works for your schedule. You'll get a follow-up email immediately after purchasing a session that will have the Zoom link that coincides with the day and time that you picked. I will get an email too that you scheduled a session, and I will be available on that exact day and time, and we will talk. I look forward to working with you.